Hello, everybody, and this is going to be the third game in the series, Journey to Master. This game I was playing white, and I'm playing against a player known as Ralph Tan. Now, this game, I had some preparation, but I did not remember it correctly. So that was my main problem. Also, thank you everybody who has subscribed so far. I love you all. And if you do enjoy this kind of content, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And without further ado, of course, you all know me. I play the London system. So we got d4, knight f6, and bishop to f4. Now, when I had gone online and looked at this person's account, my opponent's account, and what he played the King's Indian. So he played g6 against the line like this, right? So he played like this. So I was expecting him to do the same thing against the London system, and he did. He did play g6. And so what I had prepared was the knight c3 line. Um, The idea being I would like to push e4 if at all possible, and essentially just get this position, let's say, because many people play d6 here, you play e4, bishop to g7, queen to d2. I think the main line is c6, but castles also works, castles long, and you get this very dynamic position where opposite side castling, of course, and white has full control of the center, and oftentimes there's this kind of e5 push that is available. Actually, if c6 is played here, white has actually this nasty move e5. And the idea behind e5 is that if you take, I will take back with the pawn. You cannot take, and even if you could, by the way, this is pinned to the queen currently. Right, so this knight has to move. And here, as white, you have a variety of choices. You can play bishop h6. You can play e6, which I personally like to do. I like to play e6 a lot. Okay. E6, and they have to take because it's pinned. And now you can just move the bishop, maybe to h6, maybe to g5, probably h6. You can also do stuff like bishop to c4. Not here because your bishop's currently hanging, but this position gets very, very dangerous for black very quickly. And here's like the one time you're going to see me turn on the engine, because I think this is the position. Yes, this position is really, really good for white here. It's already +1 out of the opening. And you'll see all the way back here, yeah, e5. You can't really allow e5 here. You can play knight b6, you can play c5. Already, actually, this position is pretty good for white. But okay. My opponent doesn't allow any of that, and he plays d5 right here. Now, this is the best move, of course. And here what I like to do is I like to play e3, and after bishop g7, a lot of times online what I'll do is I'll play h4, and there is a trap behind h4, and that is that you have to respond to this by playing h5 or do something else other than castling, which is definitely the most natural move here is to castle. And the reason you cannot castle is because now I can play h5. And if you're saying, what? Wait, I have two things. There are two things defending, but if I take with a knight, you're not going to take with the rook because I can take back with the pawn. But you're wrong because I do take with the rook, and after takes, this position is actually very, very good for white. This is almost +2. Just because the attack after bishop to d3, knight f3, knight g5. If the queen is ever hit, I go queen to h2. I'm going to castle long and get the rook to h1. This attack on black's king is just too devastating. So, yes, there's that. But in this game, I know that this can possibly be slightly dubious. I'd have to look at the line again because engines have changed. Maybe that line has changed, but I knew that knight to b5 was a engine suggested move when I looked at it last. And the idea behind knight to b5 is, okay, I'm attacking c7, and there's actually no way to defend it other than playing knight to a6. I should also preface this with Ralph is 2231, so he's a strong national master. Knight a6, defending the pawn, and basically just the idea behind this is I offer a draw and I play knight to c3. Okay, and you can play knight to b8, and I'm just gonna go back. Uh, if you don't want to draw, however, you have to let me take this knight, right? So Ralph castle, and I took the knight. And the entire idea behind this whole setup is that you damage black's structure like this. You've given up the bishop pair, but now black has two doubled A pawns, which is bad, right? These pawns are not equivalent to two pawns anymore. After this, oh, the other benefit is that now my bishop is very strong in this diagonal as well, especially if something like c5 gets played, which is why immediately I play this move h3, because something that black was maybe threatening to do was to play this knight h5 move. Say, for instance, I play something like knight to f3. There's this knight to h5 attacking my bishop, and he's going to get my bishop no matter where it goes, right? If I try and play bishop to e5, first off, he can just take like this, but if he really wants to get the knight for the bishop, he can play this f6 move. I have to go back, and then he gets knight for a bishop. And now he just flat out has a bishop pair, and this is going to be very bad for me. So I do not want to allow him to play knight h5, so I do not play knight f3, I play this move h3, so that after knight h5, I can play bishop to h2, and my bishop is safe and sound here. And I can develop as I please from here. So, takes h3. He does not play knight h5 because it's not useful anymore. Instead, what he does is he plays c5, opening up the queen and putting some pressure on the center of the board, which makes a lot of sense. And so here I had another game that I played, which reached this position after knight to f3. And I remember in this game, I did end up winning the game, but I do remember in this game that my opponent played this queen to b6 move, knight to a4, queen here, c3. And what happened in the game was he played this knight to e4 move right away, and I had this nice funny little tactic where I do this, and I get this very strong pawn chain from f2 to c5 with a very powerful passed pawn. But the problem was that when we were going through the game afterwards, we came across this move d takes or c takes d4, and after c takes d4 or something else, now he goes now knight e4 is a lot stronger because I can't play knight takes c5 anymore because there's not a pawn there. So if I try and do the same thing, the problem is we get to this same position and I take this, there's no pawn on e3, so he just takes here and is going to, well, first off, he's just up a pawn now. But second off, these pawns are going to be very weak because this is a target for the rest of the game, right? With moves like e5 or something like that. And if this one falls, so does this one. So I remembered that game, and I remembered that I did not like that position. So I tried something else, which was this move knight g to e2. And the idea behind knight g e2 is if queen to b6, now I can play this, and like this, because now I'll have this move. And I mean, okay, I can also play c3 here. That's the other thing. I believe now I can play c3 because after takes, I can play takes. And if he tries to do something like this, since my knight's here, I can castle. And bishop d7 doesn't end up being that much of a concern. I don't think. Ah, no, what it was is that now the knight is here, I can play this move b4 right now. Because I'm defending this square. Another time, I should say, right? Because if you look at it, when the knight is on f3, right here, right, and if I try this, there are some tactics where takes can occur. Also, the queen is just going to slide away. This pawn ends up being very weak, is the general idea. So if I play b4, say queen to b4, first off, can't castle anymore. If the knight was on e2, I would still be able to castle. The other thing is, I cannot play knight to b2 anymore because that hangs the c3 pawn. So that's the big difference. And So yes, that's why I tried this move instead. Basically just trying to defend the c3 square for the future. Now, he did not play queen to b6 though. He played this move bishop to b7. And so now after bishop to b7, I simply castled, getting my king out of the center of the board. Maybe playing like this and knight f4. He played knight to d7. And this is preparing this e5 move. And I was like, oh, crap. I can't really prevent that. And that's a very annoying move because if he gets this e5 move in, his center is very, very strong. And if I could take here, I would, but I can't. So this is now a pretty tough position to play. What I did was I played bishop to g3, anticipating that e5 was going to come, so that I would not have to waste a move moving my bishop. I would be able to do something about it when it came. And so e5 came, and basically the difference is if I had done something else, say king h1 and e5 bishop g3, you get the same position except it's his move. So that's why I played bishop g3 because now it's my move. d e5, knight e5, and I coerce this pawn forward by attacking it, and there's just not a great way to defend it. So he has to play d4 here, and takes. And my general idea was that this pawn seems really far advanced and could possibly be a target. So that was my general plan here, was to just try and target this pawn with moves like knight e2, maybe c3, doubling on the d file, etc., etc. So I did play knight ce2, and the problem with all of my plans is this really, really nasty move knight to c4. And the thing with knight to c4 is by itself, it's just attacking a pawn, but it's also just a really, really annoying knight. It's a very, very strong knight, and I can't play this move b3 because then that runs into this move b3. And the problem is now this move has opened up the bishop to attack my rook, and my knight's hit too. And if I move the rook, because his knight's hanging too, he's just going to take, and I have to deal with that because it's not only attacking my queen, but also my rook. So I don't have time to do any of that. And if I try taking the knight, he's actually not even going to take the rook yet, because that would almost be a rook for two pieces. He's going to take the knight first, and then take the rook. And, you know, this position is definitely completely lost for white. So I can't play b3. So this knight is kind of just here, and I can't do too much to get rid of it. So what I did is this move knight to d3, kind of trying to prepare b3, and maybe also c3. I spent a lot of time calculating this move because I thought that it was very scary for me after he plays this move here. I actually almost thought that he was completely winning after this move. What I had calculated was that I could play, I think it was this knight to f4, and after queen to c6, I could play knight to b5 or knight to b4, and the queen has to step off of the diagonal now. And from here, I would just try and do something. I wasn't quite getting mated. But instead of that, what he did was rook to c8, which just further prevents me from playing b3. Right? Because now the problem is if I play b3, he plays knight to a3, and there's no good way to defend this pawn anymore. Which is just like, okay, dang. Because there's also no queen to c1, which was the idea if he were to go to a3 when the rook was not on c8. Say, I don't know, king h8, if I play b3, knight a3, I had queen c1, and I just attack the knight and tell it to go away. With the rook on c8, however, I can't do that. So I instead played queen to c1 right away, again preparing to play b3 because now there wouldn't be a knight a3. And the other idea behind this was that possibly, just possibly, my queen could come out this way. He now played this move knight to d6, and I was still afraid of a queen somehow arriving on either c6 or d5. So I played this move knight e to f4, and the other idea was to possibly get the rook out, and also try and get the queen out. Apparently in this position, there's just this move g5, and this is incredibly strong. Maybe it's not this position, but soon there's this move g5. Okay, he plays rook e8. I play rook e1, queen b6, rook e8, and rook e8. Basically, what I'm doing here is just trying my very best to just trade everything off so that I'm not getting attacked like I am currently, right? Everything's kind of staring down at my king, and a knight and a bishop is not going to sufficiently protect him. So I play queen to d1 because I didn't want to play queen d2 because then there'd be this move knight here, and that's really annoying. So I played this move queen to d1 and knight f5. And now that the knight can't go to e4, now I played queen to d2. And so here is where my opponent, I believe, did actually have g5. And now the idea behind g5 is that once I move the knight, he's going to play queen to c6. And it's super, super difficult to defend here. Right? If I play something like knight to e1, the problem is that now both of these knights are stuck. I can't move either one. And so here I'll show you actually. Takes on g3. If I play knight takes g3, he plays rook takes e1, and it's checkmate on the next move, right? So I would have to get this position where I take back with the g pawn, and now there's this really nasty move, something like this maybe, where after I take, there's some bishop to d4 check, again taking advantage of the fact, oh, I guess my knight might be able to move here, right? I guess it could, but the other diagonal opens too, right? And this could be very, very problematic. Maybe there's just, yeah, queen b6 seems like it'd be good. It attacks this, attacks the king, but okay. My opponent did not see g5, so he just played queen c6 right away. And my knight is defending here. So what I did was I played the other rook to e1. Again, I'm just trying to trade everything off. Keep in mind, g5 is still possible here. Actually, I guess it wouldn't be possible here because I can take on e8, queen takes e8, and then move my knight to something like e2, and then danger is kind of averted. But he plays this move, denying my rook trade offer. And so here I played rook to e2. And what I had calculated was that after this move g5, I would have knight to b4. And after knight to b4, I'm free to move my knight again. That was my general idea, right? So I can move like this, or maybe probably h5 would be better actually. So the queen can't stay on this diagonal again, all of the squares are hit. That was my idea. He played this bishop to h6 move, and so here now he is just actually threatening to just take my knight. Or play g5 and other nasty threats. So what I did was I played this move knight to e1, just defending g2 in extra time so that I didn't have to worry so much. His threat, by the way, actually, his threat was to play g5, and then after my knight moves, he could play g4 basically no matter what. So if I played something like, well, okay, f3 doesn't work. But if I played something like, let's say, I'm trying to find a different move actually, other than knight to e1. I just don't see one. I had to worry about this g5 and g4 thing though. And the idea here for me was after g5, I'll have this move knight back to e3. I believe it was like this, or was it knight to h5? I have to remember my line. I forgot it. Uh-oh. Um, where is it? Oh no, it was this. I had queen to d3 and I counterattack the knight, I believe is this is what it was, I think. Maybe? Maybe I'm dumb. G5. Sorry, I'm just like going through analysis here. Or maybe it was like this. It might have been like this. And then after G4, now I can go out this way, or I can play knight back to F4. Yeah, something like that. What ended up happening was this queen to B6, and I went back to D3 because I need to defend my pawn, and I don't want to play B3. So he went back, and I went back to E1. Basically, I'm just saying, okay, I'm okay with repeating moves here. My position's really bad. So he does not repeat moves. He plays this move queen c4, attacking my a2 pawn. And I really would rather not push these pawns because if I push them, I'm just going to create weaknesses. So I wanted to do the least amount of pushing those pawns possible. So I played a3. And so he played a5. And the idea is that if I take this, then he has this move. Bishop takes f4. Now my rook's hanging, and I would just lose a piece. So I cannot take on a5. So instead, what I did was I offered a trade of queens, and he declines because, of course, his position is really monstrous when the queen's still on the board. This kind of goes back to um, when you trade pieces off, you kind of have to think, okay, what was that piece doing? Because since it's not on the board anymore, it's not doing whatever that job is. And the queen in black's position, its job is to continually make white have to focus on the king so that the other four pieces can make different threats. And eventually, I'll just get overloaded. And so here, I was so focused on preventing any attack on my king that I blundered in one move here, which is unfortunate. I was just trying to safeguard the king, so I played this move knight to f3, completely blocking out any sort of attack on g2, but completely forgetting about bishop to a6, skewering my queen and rook. And so here, I kind of made a last-ditch attempt, but the problem was, after I play knight to e5, bishop takes d3, knight takes c6. He doesn't have to worry because the knight is covering e7, so there is no fork. So an unfortunate way to end this game. I had almost come back from the dead here, and what I should have played instead of knight to f3 was just something like rook to e5, getting the rook off of this diagonal, and now preparing to play knight to f3. Now that there are no more threats on the diagonal. But I mean, you lose and you learn. So overall, I think I did pretty okay this game. I could have done better, of course. But I mean, I played all right. I got a bad position out of the opening. I faced a lot of pressure, but I was able to kind of consolidate all of my pieces and then blundered the game in one move. But, you know, it happens. I'll just have to get him next time. That's all there is to it. Chess is hard. What can I say? But anyways, thank you all for watching. And if you enjoyed this game, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.